Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of season 2 of the Tabletop Tavern. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenny. I will be your DM for the entirety of this campaign, and I'm going to let my beautiful, wonderful players introduce themselves, starting with the enchanting, the effervescent, the honestly kind of sparkly today, Victoria Shaz.
Hi everyone, my name is Victoria and I play Leon Lavelle.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan and I play Galen.
Hi, I'm Doe or Doadir and I play Gris Littlefoot.
And I'm Pippin and I play Ariadne and Kailte.
Alright, so for those of you who weren't here last week, let's give you a little kind of rundown of what happened last week. In a Monster of the Week episode, the party en route to the Elven capital of Freyln arrived at a familiar inn. Liliadre, though happy to see Ariadne and the rest of the party, informed the group that some very peculiar happenings were plaguing the wildflower. Galen and Leon swapped theories as to the source of the peculiarities, most revolving around two mysterious men taking an extended stay at the inn, while Gris and Ari caught sight of a haunting and mysterious figure outside. The party went outside to investigate, and after a small altercation with a herd of goats, they found themselves facing down a phantom. The apparition nearly defeated them when it was confronted, but right as all hope seemed lost, the two men from earlier appeared and instructed the party on how to defeat the ghost. Alright, so this is where we left off.
Yes.
The men introduce themselves as adventurers. One, the warlock, reveals himself to be an elf, while the paladin appears to be his husband. They make an odd couple. They tell the party they are at the inn on the trail of another warlock who seems to be using his powers to target non-humans. After some discussion, the party, which is you, determines they can be trusted to find whoever is responsible for inflicting the haunting on Lily, and make plans to leave the next morning to the Elven capital of Freyln. The sun rises and floods the rooms with golden light. The party gathers their things and heads downstairs, where Lily serves you all breakfast. She serves porridge and eggs. She clears the dishes, and after finishing off your food and mugs of tea, or hot mulled wine if that is your breakfast beverage of choice, you stand and approach the counter to pay.
Oh, Leon's already getting her money out. Obviously. So as Leon kind of fishes through her coin purse, she says, I think you might be good now. I think the tavern might be okay now, Lily. I think you don't have anything to worry about.
Oh.
Or maybe less to worry about.
Well, did you find out what was happening?
Well, it wasn't goats, and it wasn't a ghost goat.
It was...
Was that ever a question?
For Gris, it was.
Momentarily.
What's for your brother?
It ended up being a phantom. That's what you said, right?
Are you
Jenny?
asking me? Yes.
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 Okay. So Leon says, it ended up being a phantom. We fought it. We had to burn something. I nearly burned it. Wouldn't have been very good. And then...
what did you burn?
It was an amulet?
Yeah, I found it buried in a mound by the door and in hindsight. Maybe I shouldn't have touched it.
By our back door? I'm sure I would have noticed someone snooping around the garden.
There was a... Did you know about
house.
the house that's like a couple yards past your garden?
Yes. I know about the house. We used to live in that house. When Ma and Pa were with us. I haven't seen the use in it since they passed. It's nice. It's just it's too big to keep up with all on my own and run the inn at the same time. And really, we're comfortable here.
It makes sense.
I mean, it's just... And she sort of like rubs her head for a minute and she's like, it's a shame for it to go without anyone using it. I mean, it's where I grew up. It's where I was born. It's a very nice home. I'm sorry. It upsets me to know that it's just sitting there and people can just come and mess with it. I don't have the time to make use of it. The old furniture is in there. I'm sorry, I haven't thought about that house in a long time. But I know that you say that I can ask for anything. I do feel like maybe I owe you, so and if you like, you could use it. You could. I mean, it's just sitting out there. Really, it's a fire hazard if no one looks in on it every once in a while. Like maybe as a home base. I mean, I don't want to be presumptive, but
Lily,
you'd have to clean it up a bit, but.
It's a great idea.
Chris's eyes are wide with like a sparkle in them because there's just something about making a house a home that sends Chris reeling. Like she's pumped. She's like, I would happily clean it for you, Lily.
Well, I know that you're all headed out, and I'm sure you have adventures to go on. Which, by the way, Ariadne, if you don't rate me about, my feelings will be hurt.
Ari's face just like contorts into just like that would be the worst thing that could possibly happen in my world right now. Just like this close to just like pouting and quivering.
But Lady LaBelle, I could find someone to clean it for you. It would cost a small bit, but
how much?
Maybe 2 gold?
Oh my god, that's Lily, that's nothing.
I'm pretty sure that's how much she thinks a banana costs.
A banana.
What's that?
Oh god. I thought you said you were from the islands. Wouldn't you know about bananas? I thought that was the only place they grew in this part of the world.
We don't.
Jenny
don't
having to
have
come up
bananas.
with banana lore on the spot.
I heard stories about them growing on the islands off the volcano. I'll look into it. I will write Ariadne.
Galen would ever eat a fruit.
This is a fair point. This is a fair point, Ari.
Oh,
now I'm worried that Galen has scurvy.
Well, but bananas wouldn't help with scurvy. It's
I
gonna be
know.
citrus.
It's the principle of a lack of fruit. That's my concern.
We're now debating the pros and cons of
Galen's
scurvy.
like half awake, by the way. I
Anyways.
just want to like.
So Leone kind of starts fishing through her bag and she says, okay, so 2 gold for cleaning the house. Did I pay you last night for the rooms? I could pay you. I could pay you again. It's fine.
You didn't, but it's no trouble.
How much then?
Miss LaBelle?
Lily, please. Leone is like, please.
Let's see.
We're new bets. At least maybe Leon could give more money for upgrading things. I'll just give you money.
There's something up with your mic, though.
Yeah.
I am not hearing you properly. Dun, 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 dun. So Leon basically says to Lily, how much? How much is it for the rooms for the evening?
2 rooms, 1 night, couple bowls of soup. We'll say that the ale's on me. Let's call it 4 copper.
Cool. Leon, Leon's got 4. Well, no. So Leon pulls out 2 gold and a silver, and she's like, I've only got 3 copper right now, so you can just take that. And she kind of just like places it in Lily's hand and like pats it gently.
Thank you. I very much appreciate it. I'm not sure if I can make change.
You don't have to.
Okay.
It's really fine, Lily.
Oh.
it's really fine.
Actually, Leon carries now, but don't worry about it.
I do.
Oh, that's wonderful. I seem to remember
only
last time you severely overpaid for the rooms.
Yeah, I didn't. In Alis, we don't really, at least in my circles, nothing really costs less than a gold. So I didn't really ever need it. I also didn't really need to carry around money because my parents own the majority of Gris. Do you think I ever purchased bread for myself?
Who purchases bread for you?
We have workers for that. I have people who work in my home.
You have people to
A butler.
buy
A
bread
butler?
for you?
Yeah, Ari's just staring in confusion.
A butler.
Butlers
Sometimes
are real?
Reese buys the bread, but I don't call him butler.
Well, yes.
Is that like a cute nickname for a husband? I am so sorry. I'm getting off
No,
track here.
He runs the
No, it's a
manor
valid
so that we
question.
don't have to.
So that you don't have, then what do you do?
Be a Leon Lebel. I read. I practice my sword fighting. I go for walks on the promenade. What? I don't understand what else I would do.
Did you get wages for that?
Do I get wages for that?
Yeah, how do you make money?
Well, I don't make money. The family makes money.
Well, then how can you afford bread that's a gold piece?
Oh, I don't think the bread costs a gold. I just don't have to go and buy it.
Yeah, Galen, during this whole thing, Galen's sort of just like furrowing his brow because like he kind of understands what Leon's saying, but like more illegally, kind of. So he's not really saying anything, but he's just kind of like anxiously just like fidgeting and is like ready to get a move on.
I just don't ever shop for food. Other people shop for food for me, and then the food is just available at my home. That's what it is.
Well, that's wonderful, Lady
Lovely.
LaBelle. I would love to see this butler at some point, but I do have one last request before you all leave.
Yes.
Mr. Wavefarer, you mentioned that someone had carved a message into my count. Can you just write above it that the same threat applies if they carve anything else into my furniture?
Yeah. Are you just so you're giving me permission to carve into your furniture?
I will not have Ariadne chop off your hands this time.
Galen reaches out his hand as
Leon
like a
laughs out
shake
loud.
on it kind of thing.
Yeah.
She
Ari
shakes her
chuckles
hands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ari chuckles too and just like mockingly grabs her hilt and goes like, I mean.
Galen like nervously laughs and then he unsheaths his dagger and like crouches down and carves into the side of the bar. But like right above it and with like a little pointer to below the message below says, but if you carve anything into here, both of your hands will be gone.
Lily watches you and then she looks up and she goes, "Is there anything else I can get you before you head for wherever you are headed?"
Leon looks to the rest of the party and says, Freyln's not too far.
Well,
So
just know we'll be back, Lily. I hope that everything ends up perfectly with the Phantom. Nothing to worry about there. And we will be back soon since we now have a home base.
I'm so glad you'll be using that house. It is a shame it's been empty for so long. So
Yeah.
she begins to walk you all in the direction of the door, next to Ariadne.
Leon is like glancing back at Ari like, you better stop and talk.
Galen,
You better stop.
as you walk past the door, I'm going to need you to roll a perception check.
Oh god.
Okay. 11.
That's sufficient. To the left of the door, along the door frame, is a small carving in thieves' cant. It reads, "The Honey Pot, Volume 31.
Oh no.
Okay.
8 out of 10.
Oh no.
The food is good. The bartender is hot. Subtracted 2 points because she won't wear a lower cut shirt.
Okay.
XOXO. Keep reading for more. B."
Don't fucking kill
God.
me.
Galen reads this and just sort of like laughs to himself, and kind of just like rolls his eyes and like continues walking forward, knowing that it's just a little secret for him.
Damn, like, does Gris pick up
Oh
on
my god.
feeling lulling? But I'll let you have your alone time with your message from your lady past.
Leon makes sure that she's behind Gris so that she can kind of shuffle Gris out the door so that Ari and Lily can have a moment.
Ari, you and Lily
Yeah.
walk to the doorway. And
Awesome.
she pauses and looks at you expectantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I make sure that they're all up first. I stay behind, and I turn and I look at her and I grab her hand, and I just go, "Thank you. I hope you know there's nowhere I'd really rather come home to. So let's just hope this adventure's shorter than the last one."
I hope so too. It's always so lovely to see you, Ariadne. And I hope you know that I treasure every moment you're willing to give me. You are the most remarkable, selfless person I've ever met.
Ari's just gonna stutter for a bit. Just going like, I really better with the paper and quill. And I'm gonna lean in and just like give her a peck on the cheek and just go like, I have no words, so that just there you go.
She blushes and puts a hand on your face very gently just for a moment and says, "You stay safe, and I hope that you will come back to me."
Bye. Oh my god.
I put my hand over hers and I go, I don't think there's much right now that could keep that from happening. Besides, and I like whisper, like lower my my voice a little bit, and I go, besides, I'm pretty sure if I didn't come back, you might just kill me, because with the sword, you look pretty hot, and we should spar sometime, maybe?
She rests her forehead against yours and giggles for a second, and she goes, "Only if you promise not to let me win."
Arya's like, thinks about it, like, before ultimately going, yeah, alright, that's fair. So long as you don't promise the same. I mean, I don't know you could be the best swords person in the Sea of Trees for all I know, you know? She's getting more and more flustered.
Arya, the only person I have to practice with is my brother, and he's 12. And then she...
but he has the rage of a 12-year-old. This makes him a formidable opponent, I'm sure.
Well, that's accurate. And then she just pulls you into a hug for a moment and says,
I return it eagerly.
I'm serious, Ariadne. You stay safe, and you come back here in one piece, or your companions and I will have words, and I will not let them win.
Oh, well, at least well, in that case, I have to come back to see that. I will. And I will write, provided the others don't steal my parchment.
Well, you know I treasure your letters. I've kept all of them.
Oh, that's precious.
Don't tell them, though. They seem very nosy.
They really are. Did you see Leon's look? I mean, I swear to God. And you wonder why I'm exhausted?
In her defense, I think we make a fairly cute... She, like, almost says the word couple, dials it back for a second and goes, duo.
Girl, that's basically just
I was
couple.
like, noticing the pause or something, goes, yeah, we do make a good duo. I just smiles at her and just like chuckles it out.
She
Right.
lets go of you from her embrace, and her eyes linger on yours for a moment longer before she pulls away.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I pull away too and like take like just a deep breath. She's like, oh, okay, stand up straight. I'm going to go. And then I'm gonna start walking backwards a couple steps to try and make her laugh and like gonna walk. This is how I'm leaving.
She's amused.
Cool. And after that, I'll turn around and catch up with the others.
So you are all standing on the road, And if you look behind you, you can see Lily in the frame of the doorway.
She's so sweet. Grace just kind of mutters, and she just like looks at her like, and then she kind of looks to the rest of the party, and she's like, excited to be on the road again.
Leon's kind of standing. Her most recent habit is kind of laying her hand on the top of the hilt of her sword and just kind of like tapping and like touching the rubies in the hilt. And so she's standing there kind of just like idly being like, how far away was Freylin again? Jenny.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
All right, so you should be able to get there within the day if you find a merchant to ride with.
Or Rob.
Leon, roll a charisma check.
Oh, fuck yeah, I can do that. Okay. Charisma, just, so do we want, like, performance, persuasion, deception? Or a charisma saving throw?
Or just a regular check.
Yeah, you can just
Let's just
click
get a
the
regular
modifier
check.
in your charisma.
Yeah, regular check would be good.
That is a 13 plus 4, 17.
All right. Suffice it to say, that's sufficient. You all depart the inn with sort of mixed emotions. Some of you are excited to be on the road again. Some of you are a little sad to be leaving the inn. Some of you just think it's very funny that you coincidentally saw a food review from someone you know on the wall. However, you all leave with the knowledge that it is now a place you can always return home to, should you choose. Leon manages to flag down a merchant bound for the Elvish capital, and after some cajoling and quite a bit of fluttering her eyelashes, he agrees to allow you to ride with him in his wagon. The road is uneven, and the trip is bumpy, but Gris befriends the man's horses during a short break and somehow convinces them to make record time.
Hell yeah.
You arrive at the Freylin city gates in the mid-evening. The sun is beginning to set, there's a slight chill in the autumn air, and you part ways with the merchant at the gates themselves. The guards look you over with a judgmental curiosity, but Leon and Ari make quite a show of being elves themselves, and you are allowed to pass. So you are now standing in the entrance of the city. It is largely how you remember it. It is a large, gleaming, and exceptionally clean testament to Elvish architecture. The buildings seem as if all carved from a single piece of marble, glinting in the autumn sunset. The streets are not nearly as crowded as human cities, though those who pass give solemn nods to Ariadne and Leon, and cast curious glances at Gris and Galen.
Gris
Leon kind of looks
Act
around
like
and
you
is
never
like...
seen a Triton before.
Leon kind of looks around and does she recognize this as the spot where Gabriel flagged her down?
I mean, you do, so yes, she does.
Okay.
You pulled that from your mind, she can have that as
yeah.
well.
Leon kind of looks around and says, the last time we were here, the guy who tried to kill me approached us.
Do you think we're...
Yeah, are we...
What?
I look at Gris and I'm just like, yeah, are we still... back at Leon. Fugitives.
Okay. First, okay. Huddle in. Leon's like, get
Galen
closer.
instinctively like puts his hood up. He's just
Put
like,
that down. That makes you look more... Galen.
I'm a traveler, it's okay.
Leon goes, okay. Nobody knows what happened.
Surely they know.
But how would they know it was us?
Sure, how would they not know it was us?
There's no proof that we were there, other than a handful of
some of
people
the
seeing
book-
us. And
Okay.
everybody else had left.
Valdithas and Raphael.
Pardon?
I don't think they were there.
They knew we were going.
Oh, but Valdithas and Raphael. Oh, they wouldn't say anything.
How do you?
More than the circumstantial, didn't some of the bodies have scorch marks? And I'll do like Leon's little like flare.
But that wasn't even from me.
What if we left?
That was from the sister. I couldn't do any fire, remember? You all didn't untie me.
Oh. I untied you.
That's fair.
Right. Do we remember this? Yeah.
I untied
exactly,
you.
Galen.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
but
I
after everyone had died, Gris, and I love that you did it. Thank you.
I just am very slow.
It was just a little late.
I only walk 25 feet.
That may be true, but I did my part of the plan, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
I mean,
Oh, you're so
honestly, here
young.
I think we'll be okay because
Yes.
honestly, if the town's guard found their bodies in a creepy cult room,
And also, how about we just stop talking about it and don't bring attention to ourselves? How do we consider
Chris realizes
Says-
we've been saying
yeah.
this out loud and kind of like does a very over the top look behind her, like,
Yes.
oh no.
Leon is like, I need to give them performance
Ari-
lessons.
Ari just
Something.
nods along, but then goes, yeah, says the queen of drawing attention to herself.
But not for these reasons. There's a
Oh,
difference.
so you're peculiar about the attention you want?
There is a difference between attracting the kind of attention that I attract and then attracting the kind of attention that, and please don't take offense to this, Galen attracts.
Galen attracts the attention of a pink tiefling.
I attract the fun kind.
Yeah, she's fun. I like her.
You know what? We're just not going to get into that. Here's my question. Would Leon know, Jenny, question for the DM.
Answer for the player.
Would Leon know whether or not there are hours of operation for
Oh yeah,
the
it's late.
inn?
The inn.
Or is it not late enough, or not the inn, for the library?
Leon?
Or is it not late enough for the library to be closed?
Let me look at something very quick.
Okay.
Leon, for personal reasons, you can choose whether or not to disclose. You do know that Valdithas is typically at the library until the moon is high in the sky.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that the library is open, but you know he will be there and that you can get in and presumably talk to him.
Okay. So Leon kind of puts her hands together and says, I say we just go to the library and we talk to Valdithas and we do what we came here to do and we find out why the gods are silent, or we look for books to try and find out why the gods are silent. Do we all agree?
I mean, okay, but you're certain he'll be there? I mean, I know I said I think librarians sleep at the library, but I don't actually think librarians sleep at the library, Leon.
I'm sure he would be. And if he's
I'll-
not, we can go to an inn.
I'll risk it for some mushroom tea from Valdithas.
Wasn't that Raphael?
They both had it. Valdithas
Oh.
loves it, but Raphael knows about it because of Valdithas.
Correct. So Leon kind of looks at Galen and is like, do you agree?
Yeah.
All right. And she heads off in the direction of the library.
All right, are you all following Leon?
Yeah, Gris
Yeah.
kind of scurries to get as close to Leon as she can.
I'm gonna
Excited
hang
to-
back and just match pace with Galen. Just go, this is somehow a lot more amenable and less amenable than last time.
I know, right? Nice
Chris-
one on the attention thing, by the way. And Galen like
Thank
holds up
you.
his hand for a high five.
I'll give him one.
Just two dudes being bros. You take a more direct route to the library than last time, for fairly obvious reasons. Leon leads you all. She doesn't seem to need any kind of instruction for how to get there. Rather than back alleys, you follow the main road to the Bard's College, then turn left, following a smaller path to a familiar open-air garden. The fountain in the center bubbles pleasantly in a way that almost makes you sleepy, perhaps by association. And the topiary shines gold and red with its fall foliage. Beyond the garden stands what you know to be the library.
Hopefully we don't have to sleep out here this time. It is nice and cozy, though.
Leon looks at Gris and is like, You know, Gris, I adore you. And I really try hard to get it. I
But
can't
it's
get
just-
this. I don't
just-
get it.
No. Take a minute. Just take a minute and just breathe in and smell the water trickling from the fountain, the fresh cut topiaries, the softness, the mildness of the dirt. And then kind of
You lost me
beyond
at
that.
dirt. No. You lost me at dirt.
One day you'll understand. You just
I-
come to Dreamer's Grove, stay with me and Reese. You'll understand. You'll get it.
Is there this?
Oh, come
We
on,
have
Leon.
beds.
Grove
We
for
have
I
beds,
will.
Leon.
Okay, fine. Good. Okay, good. Good answer.
I
So I will come to
just pipe
Dreamer's
up and
Grove
go,
for you, but
Oh, come on. Someone like Lady Leon LaBelle would never refuse an offer of hospitality
I would
from a
not,
friend.
Ari. I will.
You would make
eventually at
Reese
some point.
so upset if you left him. He
Oh, of
died
course. No.
trying to-
Chris, don't get me wrong, please. I would love to see Dreamer's Grove. I would love to see Dreamer's Grove. I just am quite averse to dirt in general.
Chris raises an eyebrow and says, and like under her breath, kind of towards the direction of Ari, is like, she'll never survive in Dreamer's Grove.
I turn back and I whisper back,
Survivor.
No, I don't think she will. But she'll be fun to watch, won't it?
It's a lot of dirt, but it is very beautiful.
Ryan, was that
Leon is like listening to them say this. Like,
Galen? Was that chuckle in character?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay.
Galen's sort of like playing in the fountain while all this is happening.
Okay, so as you all discuss Leon's aversion to dirt, Galen has settled himself on the edge of the fountain and discovered that it's quite deep. You could theoretically put your legs in it or stand in it if you really wanted to, Galen.
no.
No, I think he's just sort of like running his fingers through the water and like flipping it up and making it do like little swirls and watching it splash back down and just fun little things to while he waits for everybody.
On that note, Leon puts her hands together and says, "Okay, let's go in. I think we should go in." And she kind of heads towards the door confidently.
Chris kind of looks up at the library and just like, can we go in right now?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Leon just kind of goes and like knocks on the door.
Gris is like in her mind, like she's gonna use gold. There's gonna be gold exchanged.
I mean, libraries are public, aren't they?
Maybe not at this hour.
Galen sort of looks up at the sky and is like, every building's open if you try hard enough.
Oh my god.
Gris,
No,
Gris gets-
Galen, I actually think that's why locks are a thing.
Leon goes, "Thank you, Ari."
Locks
know,
are
she's
just
turned
physical
away from
rules
the
meant to
door.
be broken. It's fine.
Oh,
I
Galen.
feel like you've come so far. Why the sudden itch to break locks?
Why do you like turning into birds, Gris?
Have you been a bird? Oh wait.
Yes.
This breaks Leon. Leon's like, "Stop."
Not my favorite experience.
No, we just stop right now and just go
Points
into
a finger
library.
at Galen, just going like, yeah, actually.
Oh my god.
Gris
Okay.
just is like, oh man, I goofed. And she's like, okay, you can teach me how to break a lock once. And we'll
no.
compare.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I mean, are we
Galen's
certain
gonna-
he's the best teacher?
Can you
And
break locks?
I
Naruto?
smile and chuckle.
Leon at this point knocks on the door again, just like desperate for this
Please let us
conversation to end.
Leon, you knock on the door, and though nobody answers it, it swings open a little bit. It is very clearly unlocked.
Leon opens the door and pokes her head in and looks and then steps in. And I'd like to roll perception and also call out Valdithas
Okay, so you want to roll perception.
and call out for Valdithas' name.
Okay.
So what is my perception?
It's going to be your wisdom modifier.
That is a 15 plus 1, 16.
All right, so you step into the library. Friends, do you follow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
All right,
Yeah.
so you all step into the library, and Leon calls out for Valdithas. The inside of the library is very nearly silent. The large overhead windows sort of bathe everything in a golden red light of sunset. The climbing vines that grow over the walls and up onto the ceiling seem unaffected by the autumn, and so inside it feels almost tropically warm. A familiar elven man, tall and slender with ochre-colored skin, his long dreadlocks decorated with fine silver rings, pulled into a bun at the nape of his neck, steps out from behind a bookshelf as you call out, and smiles gently, his hands pressed together. Lady Leon LaBelle, surely you don't have more questions for me already.
Leon chuckles and says, I have questions about something different for you.
And you brought your friends. It is lovely to see you again.
Gris pokes her head out from like behind Leon, I presume, and it's like, Valdithas, it's so good to see you. We have tons of questions about gods. Just getting straight to the point.
Gods. All right.
Gods. All of them.
I half expected your question to be about mushroom tea, Miss Littlefoot.
Yeah, so did I. And I look at Gris and I'm like,
well, I wouldn't be opposed to a cup of mushroom tea if you're offering.
There is a pot on my desk over there. You're welcome to have some. Raphael actually enchanted it for me. Tea never gets cold.
Gris scurries immediately in the direction of his office and desk.
Okay,
if
so
I'm watching this, can I see, does Gris reach? Or is she gonna need assistance?
Gris, roll a dexterity check.
Ooh, this could be an adventure. Oh no. 6 + 2, 8.
Ari, you look over to where Gris has scampered off to, and she is standing at the desk, which is probably about 3.5 feet high. Valdithas is a tall man, and she's trying desperately to hoist her body up with her hands and sort of scramble up high enough to be able to pour herself a cup of tea, which you realize as you watch her is just a totally fruitless endeavor. There's no possible way this could work.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna like look and just like shake my head a little bit and then like just saunter over very casually. Just stand and look down at her and just like, everything okay?
Hi, Ari. Thanks so much for coming over. Tea, maybe? And she kind of looks down like, I didn't want to ask for help, but in this instance, definitely need it.
Poor thing, Gris. And I'll pour her a cup of tea. And then I'll look back down and I go, would you like me to bring this down or would you rather come up? Just...
you can just hand it to me. That would be
okay,
lovely.
and I'll just hand it down.
Gris kind of cups it in both hands and gives Ari like a smile and a nod and walks back to the party with their tea in hand.
So as they're walking back, Leon kind of looks at Valdithas and says, okay, so to explain what Gris said, we went to a harvest festival and we've been hearing that gods are going silent. And I don't know if you've heard anything about this. I don't know, whether you have heard anyone else in the library talking about it, but do you have anything that could provide any information about that?
Valdithas sort of rubs his chin for a minute and he goes, well, I am quite wise, but I would be the first to admit that I am not a particularly religious person, nor am I a religious scholar. However, give me a few moments. I can go check and see if there's anything that you may find helpful. And he pauses for a minute and he goes, and, Lady LaBelle, it's quite funny that you arrived just now, as I confiscated something from my husband I think you would be interested in. Remind me when I get back. And he
I will.
sort of like walks away from you all, disappearing back into the multitudes of shelves of books.
I knew
I've
Raphael
walked
was
back
shady.
with yeah. I've walked back with Gris at this point, and I'm watching Valdithas walk away. And I like lean down to just like barely lean down to Gris and go, "He said it was funny, but I didn't hear the joke."
I didn't either, Ariadne.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I guess we'll never know.
Oh my god. Oh, the intelligence dumps on his back.
Guess who's back?
Lander, it's Galen.
Literally. I know. Leon kind of looks around and is like, I feel like we didn't really get to appreciate this library last time we were here.
It feels like a jungle in here.
It's wonderful.
Chris does another deep inhale, much like she did outside, and she's like, it smells incredible. Earthy, and like pages of a book, and ink. She's like, actually, it smells a little like grease.
Leon goes, oh.
And she's like, he would love this. And she just kind of smiles and takes a long sip from the cup of tea.
Has he ever been to Freylin, Chris?
No, other than his wonderful adventure into the Circle of Dreams, Reese, like me, hasn't really left Dreamer's Grove. So I'm kind of adventuring for both of us.
Well, you can adventure on this side of things. He can do the dream thing. Maybe not anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't do that anymore.
That's for
Probably
the best
smart.
side.
Yeah, I just look at Leon like, did you really just
You know,
freeze go back?
that's for the best. Well,
there's some trauma. There's some trauma involved. He would go back if it was absolutely necessary. He would never, leave people behind. But I think for now he's comfortable just teaching and woodworking.
I am also not in a rush to go back there.
True.
I was not particularly cute over there.
You were fierce though, like in a weird and slightly scary, slightly impressive kind of way.
Thank
I
you.
still sometimes see your eyes when I close mine, Leon. I'm just like,
That's the concern overall. That's not the impression I want to leave on people, you know.
well, I was with you the longest there, so
That's true.
Lots of looking into those eyes.
That is very true. And then Leon just kind of like ponders, like waiting for Valdithas, very excited for like whatever he's gonna bring.
Gris kind of remembers something, and she just kind of speaks up quickly to the party, and she's like, if we do find out what's wrong with the gods, I'm still worried about our orc friends. It seems like they're kind of happy that Grumsh is quiet.
Well, from what they've said, he doesn't really sound like the most pleasant individual.
With
It
that
reminds
being
me of
said,
Strike,
though,
honestly.
Gris gets like a visible chill.
Leon says our more docile orc friends may not like that Grumsh is there, but the whole reason what happened with the hayride happened was because Grumsh was too quiet, and they were trying to get his voice back somehow. So, do we really want to encourage that silence for a handful of people when
no.
it could cause trouble for a
You're
much
right.
larger group?
Gris just kind of nods, and she's like, and I don't think we ever want to silence the gods. They do a lot of wonderful work for us, but
Seems like a bad idea.
I just worry, especially after hearing how long it's taken some of our friends to learn an alternative way to silence him. Just something I was thinking about.
Sometimes life is about finding coping strategies, not necessarily getting rid of the things that plague us. We just find the best ways to handle them. And I think that Maxilla and Travis and all of the osteoclasts have figured out their ways of handling Grumsh. So I think, if we find out why the gods are quiet and if we can help, I have no idea how we'd help, but if we can help, then I think they'll continue to cope in the ways that they've learned how. We
Gris
have to believe in
nods.
them.
She's like, oh, I believe in them wholeheartedly. I just worry. Like, it's just things Davey said about not having friends and perception of works. And I don't know. You can't change anything.
Oh,
Doe,
your
I
mic's
think
cutting
your
out
mic
again.
is cutting out again.
I know you mentioned Stapes not having friends. So Leon is gonna respond with,
Uh-oh.
Oh,
There we go. Okay.
Yeah,
there we go.
Sorry. I don't know. My connection's bad. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. I know you mentioned Stapes not having friends, so Leon was about to respond with, I think that's more on the humans in Viri Valley than it is on the osteoclasts.
Oh, it is.
And I think it's up to them to change.
It absolutely is. And maybe that's something we can help out with in the future.
I mean, like, yeah. I will give them a piece of my mind.
Just buy more of, what was it? You bought some candles or something?
Just a piece of it. How conservative.
I know, right, Ari? Leon says, I don't know if Maxilla would appreciate that. I think Melius would, though. I think Melius would probably enjoy it if I tore a strip off of some of the humans for being mean. I'm not going to do it, don't worry.
But I was going to say, you have to consider, you get to leave after saying those things. They
Exactly.
don't, Leon.
I wouldn't.
You say that, but I just was making sure.
If push came to shove, perhaps I might. But they'd have to be very mean and in front of me.
Fair enough.
Or they just have to ask me. If they ask, I'll do it.
As the rest of the party is sort of involved in conversation, Galen, your keen thieves' senses make you realize that someone is standing directly behind you, watching your friends have this conversation.
Galen sort of whips around and like puts his hand like on his belt, like ready to unsheath his dagger and like shove this person if he needs to.
Valdithas is standing there. He goes, I'm so sorry. I thought it would be rude to interrupt.
I mean, we're the only ones here. A little hello or I'm back would have been appreciated. I'm sorry. Galen sort of like awkwardly presses his hands together. It's a habit I've been trying to break.
Valdithas sort of like nods for a minute and looks at you and goes, has anyone ever told you you would look lovely in blue?
Leon chuckles.
The only I pipe up and go, the only blue Galen likes is the ones on bruises, so I don't think he'd be up for that, no.
Raphael said he'd look good in blue. I'm still working on it.
Your partner has said that I would look good in blue, yes. He actually forced me to wear it once.
Well, he does have exquisite taste. He chose me, after all. And he sort of like...
Leon's making like a hand motion.
Awkwardly stands there for another second and he goes... Or pink. Pink would complement your skin nicely.
Galen sort of just like throws his hands up and he's like, blue and pink. It's always blue and pink. And then he kind of just like turns around and like takes a few steps backwards.
Valdithas nods. And you all notice that he's holding... In his right hand, he's got a book. A single book. It seems to be relatively thin. It doesn't seem to be anything quite like what he gave you before. Pressed underneath the palm of his hand is also an envelope, but he begins by handing Leon, who asked for the book, and gesturing to a few tables about 100 paces away. If you like, you can peruse that there. I would ask that you not take the book.
We won't take the book. Don't worry. We'll take a look at the book and then I'll come back for what you mentioned.
He sort of like
Leon... waves
waves the letter for a moment and then gestures you all back over towards the tables.
Wait,
Leon...
out of character.
Yeah.
Who had it last? The folded piece of paper we ripped out of.
I've been thinking about it. I was about to bring it up.
It was me. You gave it to me.
I gave it to Leon.
Yeah.
Okay, so back in character, Gris kind of, as they walk towards the other table, kind of elbows Leon a second. She's like, We stole his page. Can we give it back?
Leon casts message. Chris. I'm sure it's fine. You can give it back if you'd like. and she like fishes in her bag and like pulls out the piece of paper and just hands it to Gris.
Ari
What you
seeing
will.
it and recognizing just goes, "Oh yeah, he did give that to us. I was
Yeah,
really
didn't he give
surprised
it?
he tore it out.
Yeah, but
You
I
think
think he
being a
did it.
guardian of the books and all, that seemed. I mean, I was grateful, and I was just saying."
Yeah, I think he did it less than willingly. And Gris unfolds it. It's been creased a couple times. It's likely a little wrinkled. And she does her best to like flatten it out. And she takes it and walks over to Valdithas and just says like, "Thank you."
Valdithas takes it from her, looks at it, reads it for a moment, and then looks back down at her. He's still standing where you left him, the rest of the party moving towards the tables, and he looks down at you. And then he kneels so that he's on eye level with you, and he goes, "I don't think you're done with this." And he hands it, and then he stops for a moment, and he goes, "Did I never show you the companion to that song?"
What?
No.
I'm so sorry. I've been so busy. It must have just slipped my mind. I did lend it to the book to a colleague recently who's studying the musical history of the Wood Elves. However, I don't believe that depriving you of the second half is particularly wise. I will send it along to Lady LaBelle's mother. I have her address for a whole host of reasons.
Gris just kind of like is shocked and just takes the page back from Valdithas, and she just nods and she says, "Oh, okay, thank you."
He pats your head as he stands up and he goes, "I don't think that story is quite over yet. And I consider myself quite an expert in stories."
And she's like, "Well, I was kind of hoping it was over because it involved my husband. But we did leave behind a big player in that story." She kind of taps the paper and she's like, "I look forward to reading the next song." Just like a yes, Valdithas.
He nods thoughtfully and he goes, "Yes, the lizard who swallows the sun is quite a force to be reckoned with." And then he sort of takes a few steps away and goes to, it looks like reshelve some books.
Gris is shook.
Were we in
Absolutely
earshot of
dropped.
Nope.
No, we're all by the table.
She is gonna walk back to the table, probably the paper in hand, face shocked. And she sets the page kind of on the table, lifts it up, sets it down, and she says, "So we're not done with that?"
Leon looks up from the book and says, "What?"
Valdithas said we're not done with that, and also there's a second song, a companion song, if you will, having to do with a lizard and swallowing the sun.
What did he say?
He said he'll send it to your mother.
No, what did you just say? What did he say?
He said that we're not done with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's a companion song that we
Okay.
need to check out. But he has since lent the book to a friend who is studying music. So he'll send it to your mother,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to do with a lizard who swallowed the sun.
Leon grabs the page from where Gris put it, and she goes fishing in her bag for this little notebook. And she opens the notebook and she writes "lizard who swallows the sun" in the notebook, and then puts the page in there and like closes it and puts it back in her bag.
Why, by any chance, Jenny recognize or know anything about a companion song, considering I knew the lullaby from being a kid?
You don't actually know a song, but you do know a story
Okay.
about how long ago, before the humans arrived, when it was just the elves and the dwarves, and the halflings had not yet been sculpted from the clay of the gods, you heard a story that was told sort of almost as a ghost story. Kids would pass it around, and the old women in the village would smack them and tell them not to talk of such things because it brought bad luck, or worse, to the villages where the whole story was told. But from what you can remember, which is sort of a little shaky, it tells the story of a lizard, a large lizard, who lives in a cave somewhere beyond the mountains, who comes out and swallows the sun because he hates the light.
Okay.
And he thinks it is better for the world to be plunged into eternal nighttime. You don't remember much else except for the fact that it terrified you as a child, to the point where you would go and hide underneath the bushes that surrounded your village, and whatever adult was presently in charge of making sure that all of the children were in the village at nighttime would have to come seek you out because you were so scared.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So remembering all this, my eyes just go a little wide, and I go like, well, I don't know about your song, but I really hated that story as a kid. I mean, it scared the crap out of me. It's really not an appropriate story for children if you think about it.
A story?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't remember it much. I was a kid, but there's a lizard. He lives in a cave past the mountains, and he doesn't like the sun, so he swallowed it because it's better that we're all in darkness. It's a very scary story. That's just a story. I'm sure there's absolutely nothing to be held in that.
So
just like looking off, just being like, no.
When Valdithas sends my mother the book, and thereby me, we will have to take a look to see if it has anything to do with that story. We'll have to cross-reference that. That's very interesting. And Leon just kind of like ponders for a second, and then kind of snaps out of it. And she goes and she opens the book up to the first page.
All right. So, this book is in Elvish.
I believe I do speak that.
I do believe you speak Elvish.
Yeah.
It's not in Sylvan, but it is in Elvish. And it says... well, actually, so you sort of flip through it at first.
Okay.
It appears to be a children's book.
Okay.
Sort of an introduction to the gods of the world for kids. Think of the fantasy version of those like children's Bibles that are like made out of that like cardboard. Yeah, okay. So
I love that.
There are several gods mentioned throughout the course of this book, though their descriptions are simple and the stories of their miracles and domains are fairly short and relatively uninteresting. There are three that sort of catch your eye, some based off of familiarity, some based off of the fact that you don't know them at all. Would you like to read about them?
Yes.
All right. The first depicts what appears to be the body of a man with the skull of a raven. It is labeled Hetrasil, the god of death, and the description is as follows. Before Merkel came his father, who served as the gatekeeper between life and death. After the fall from grace, Merkel rose from his father's shadow. Would you like to read on?
Yes.
The next image actually largely resembles most of the depictions you've seen of the goddess known as Shantae. A woman, strong, as if she spends most of her days plowing a field, holding in one arm a baby with a lamb tucked around it, and in the other, a bundle of wheat. It's labeled Phocia, goddess of fertility. And the caption follows as is. Phocia is the name of Shantae, the goddess of fertility and the harvest, before the fall. She quickly regained her seat amongst the heavens. Would you like to read about the last god that catches your eye?
Yes.
The final image that strikes you is the image of what appears to be a beautiful woman. She wears a head shawl, and she holds in her hand a long string which she has drawn taut. It is labeled Tefine, Goddess of Fate. And the caption follows: Before the fall from grace, Tefine held the strings of all mortal fates. It is said she would visit her faithful in dreams and whisper to them the secrets of their futures. Tefine was beautiful and most often depicted as taking the form of an elf woman. It is said that the new gods could not take her place, nor could she return to the heavens, as the fall snapped her strings and drained her powers.
Oh, interesting.
Can I ask a out of question character?
An out-of-character question? Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck I just said.
The syntax was just a little weird. It's okay, man.
Do we know a lot about this? What's referenced as the fall?
You've never heard of this before.
Okay.
No. Also, we've all just been watching Leon read, presumably.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna pipe up and say, for someone who claims to read all day for apparently no wages, you do read very slowly.
Leon says, okay. There's three gods that stand out to me, and Leon kind of relays everything that you just heard to everyone. But what I'm curious about is this fall. Would
Chris?
Leon know anything about the fall in all of the studies she's been doing?
Yeah, or Ari, considering even if they didn't pay attention, it's probably.
Can I get a religion check from everyone?
Okay.
Yes. Just religion?
Yes, just religion. If you were affiliated with the clergy in some way, you roll with advantage.
18 plus 2 is 20. Is the paladin associated with the clergy?
Yes, babe, it is.
Oh, I'm going to try and go for a nat 20 then.
Nice.
No, 18 plus 2 is 20.
All right, so you got a 20. Pippin, what'd you get?
5 plus 4, 9.
Okay, did you roll twice?
No, you said clergy, so I didn't know if that
Monk
that was,
counts. Yeah.
That's
Cool.
monkdom.
The clergy
two.
being the non-Catholic clergy.
Yeah, not that much better. 6 plus 4, 10.
All right. Gris, what did you roll?
2.
Galen?
Technically,
9 minus 1, 8.
Minus 1.
Intelligence dump stat.
That's fair.
Exactly.
Leon, you pause for a moment, and you actually think that you remember reading something about the fall from grace once. It's super blurry in your memory. You're not even sure you could remember what book you read it in or when you read it. You read it in a book in your house while studying to become a paladin. It was a little unclear what it was exactly, but the fall from grace was referenced as, and this is the only line you remember, the day the heavens went dark and pushed from their insides the gods themselves.
Okay. I'm just writing that. Pushed from their insides the gods themselves.
Yes.
Okay. So Leon kind of says, this referencing of the fall, I don't know what book it was in. Oh my god, I really should have cataloged or something. There was a line, I read it, it was about... God, I barely remember any of it. All I remember is that it said at one point that the fall from grace is the day the heavens went dark and pushed from their insides the gods themselves. And that's all I remember.
The heavens have insights.
Leon chuckles and says, I mean, could that be happening again?
Gris just kind of furrows her brow and doesn't say much, but she's like, I sure hope not.
I mean, so that second one, Shantae, Jenny, out of character, that's the only one of the three that said she regained her seat after the fall, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
It said that she's the only one who regained her seat after the fall. And people have communicated with Shantae, and, well, now they've heard her go silent.
So you're thinking she lost her seat again?
Well, what if there was another fall?
Galen, do you have
This
any
is really
thoughts?
out there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not exactly the person to be seen as pleasant in the eyes of any deity. The only experience with religion I have is my mom used to have a little statuette of this goddess of the ocean in our house back on the small island. But it's, how can there be two falls? I feel like a fall is something that's natural or happens. I don't know if it's a fall. What if it's something more nefarious? What if somebody tried to usurp Shantae out of her seat?
It's not just Shantae, though.
Everyone.
That's true.
Well, and how do you fall if you're a god?
How did they
Is-
fall the
Right.
first time?
But is there a god that other gods? Do the gods have a god? Gris is just throwing out like she's like, how does the hierarchy of gods work? She's like, I know Sylvanas.
Is this like
And
is this
Eldath
like
a
a
little.
musical chairs type situation for their god chairs? Like, I don't.
It seems like Hetrasil and Tefine. Is it Hetrasil and Tefine, you said?
Mhm.
Tefine?
Tefine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like Hetrasil and Tefine, well, they fell and they didn't get their seats back. So I mean, you can fall on the same set of stairs twice if you're in the same spot and in the same circumstances.
But how likely is that?
Probably very unlikely.
I have another out of character question. I think I
Yes.
did it right that time. Are Hetrasil and Tefine gods that are actually like part of D&D? Because the only one I recognize is Shantae.
No, these are old gods.
So then these are gods that aren't being actively
No, these are not gods with which you are
worshipped.
familiar, no.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So Gris is kind of like, have y'all heard of Hetrafine or Hetrasil and Tymphine? Because I don't know a lot about gods, but I don't know that I've heard those names at all.
Mm-mm.
No,
If they
neither.
If they fell and never regained their seats, then why would we know about them?
Valdithas clears his
Valdithas.
throat again, standing behind you all, and he goes, "Did you find the information useful?"
We found the
Yes.
information.
What do you know about the fall from grace, Valdithas?
Valdithas pauses for a moment, thoughtfully. Not particularly much. I am, as I said, not a religious scholar. The gods seem perhaps too complex for me, but also, and he sort of thinks for a moment, I believe that's a part of your story that's not yet ready to be opened, Leon.
No table of contents on this thing?
Wait, Leon's story? Specifically?
Leon's
Stories
just kind
are
of looking at him.
meant to be shared, Gris. Although, I can say, if you are looking for answers about gods you don't know, perhaps you should turn your focus, your journey to the religious center of the world. I had assumed you, Ariadne, would be familiar with this concept, but you strike me as a little bit of an unorthodox monk. Though I like that.
Thank you. Yeah, I no, it's totally because I didn't. It's totally not because I don't really pay attention. It's not that at all. And then I just chuckle and like look at Valdithas like, yeah, it's obviously that. But you do have a point. I just know as much as these guys at this point.
He nods and he goes, well, if I were looking for answers about the gods, I would seek them in Talerneth, outside of Aelis. He pauses for a moment and reaches into a satchel that hangs by his hip and pulls out a map of the world, which he spreads on the table. He points to the city of Aelis and draws a very short line with his fingers. There's a road that you follow from Aelis, maybe half a mile, that will lead you to the walled holy city. He pauses for a moment and goes, however, they won't let half of you in unless it is... And he runs off for a moment, grabs a book off a shelf, flips through it for a second, points at something in it, and looks back up. The day after the full moon. Okay. They just don't. They don't accept pilgrims except once a month.
Oh.
Hmm.
Does Gris know where in the moon cycle we are currently as a druid?
What a good question. The day after tomorrow should be the full moon.
Sick. Gris pipes up and she's like, so the day after tomorrow? That's
3 days. The day after the day after.
No, the day
tomorrow.
after tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
not
I thought you
tomorrow,
said
but
the
the
full
following.
moon was the day after tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no. So the full moon is the day after tomorrow.
Exactly, and you said
Yeah.
it's the day after the full moon.
Yes.
The day
Sorry,
after the day after
Yes.
tomorrow.
And wasn't Freylin only a few hours away from Aelis by foot?
Yes.
So even faster by carriage.
Yes.
Okay. So Leon is kind of musing out loud, and she's like, okay, so we could go to Aelis, we could stay at my house tomorrow, and then we could go there the
We
day
could find
after.
the book you don't remember.
Oh.
We could find the book. That's what we'll do.
He pauses for a moment and he goes, Lady LaBelle, I forgot. I have something for you.
I didn't forget.
And he goes, good memory, and hands you the envelope.
Okay. Leon takes it. What
Would
do I
you-
see?
Would you like to look at the envelope?
Yes.
So it is relatively small, stiff as if the parchment inside is perhaps expensive. There is a stamp holding it shut with a wax seal of a crest that you recognize. Scribbled on the back of the envelope is a note. Leon, your mother says you're on another adventure. Stay safe and keep your blade clean. M.
Can Gris be nosy and kind of like...
Uh-oh.
Hey.
Gris, you're cutting
no.
out.
Leon
Not that we
kind
don't
of
love Robo Gris, it's badass, but
Leon looks at it and just kind of like smiles to herself and kind of resolves to kind of like open it. Oh. No, you know what? Leon wouldn't be very subtle. Leon kind of opens it and just kind of like shimmies out the parchment and like kind of like turns away from everyone and just like does a really quick skim, just to kind of see whether it says anything of importance.
Well, what I was saying before I became Robo Gris was that Gris wants to be a little nosy and see if she can see anything from this letter.
So you are seated next to Leon. However, I would assume that she stood to get the letter. You can stand and try to see what's on the back of the envelope.
Gris would love to do that, and is happy to roll anything for that one.
Leon, are you attempting to make any sort of moves to cover what it says on the envelope?
Leon, well, I mean, I guess Leon would kind of hold it, like when she like shimmies the parchment out, I feel like she'd be holding the envelope in her hand with the parchment on top of it, so as not to lose any of it.
All right.
So it's like in her hand. I can roll deception if I need to.
Yeah.
I am quite confident
roll
in my
deception,
capabilities.
Gris,
Sleight of hand.
roll insight.
15.
5 plus 8 is 13, so you do beat me.
All right. You see that it is from. You see the word Leon and then the letter M at the end in lieu of any kind of signature.
Gris, who has, over the long break, spent many times writing to Leon, has a good idea of who M is. And so she just kind of, like, casts Leon a little look, like...
Leon, like, very quickly flicks her eyes over to Gris and then goes back to reading.
And Gris is like, yes, get your mans!
Don't kill me.
Ari
Galen
is
sort of
dutifully,
Yeah, Galen looks at Ari and then looks at Leon and says, "What? We can't keep secrets, but you can? Come on."
He has a point, but even so, Ari's just gonna like shrug and just dutifully respect Leon's boundaries. Gotta model that behavior.
Leon looks at Galen and is like, I don't ask to read your letters.
I mean, nobody wants to read your love letters between you and B,
Exactly.
as wonderful as I'm sure they are.
Does the letter say anything of importance?
It says quite a bit of importance.
Oh, yes, what does it say?
It begins.
Panic.
Dearest Lady LaBelle,
I'm going to have a heart attack.
it is our most sincere pleasure to invite you and the companions of your choosing to a formal ball celebrating Sir Marius of House Steel's 28th birthday in Aelas. The ball shall begin at the evening's 8th hour at the address provided on the 27th of this month.
What day is it?
It is the 25th.
So, the same day that we head over to the pilgrimage place, we go to the ball?
No, because the day after tomorrow is the full moon.
So his birthday's on the full moon, and then we pilgrimage the next day.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Oh my god. Let's go. Okay, so is that all it says?
Yeah.
Okay. Leon goes, "Oh." And she looks at Valdithas and she says, "What are the odds that Raphael would be able to help us in a pinch again?"
He laughs and he goes,
Galen just aggressively sighs.
he goes,
Ari's
Leon-
back furrows just like, oh no.
I feel you should know your mother sent this to us as apparently whoever delivered it to her wanted it to reach you. She said you were an adventurer, but she was in the hope that you would stop by my husband's shop for perhaps some new finery as your adventure progressed. I did have to take it from him because he thought the handwriting looked distinctively male and wanted to know if it was some kind of love letter. And frankly, he's a little too nosy for his own good. So I am more than sure he would be happy to assist you, but bear in mind that he will want all of the information of whatever was on that parchment.
Oh, that's fine. Leon's like, that's okay.
Just staring at Leon at this point, just going like, and why exactly are we going to Rayfields? No, and I turn to Valdithas. Not that I don't think it wouldn't be lovely to see him. I'm just cross-checking.
Leon flourishes her hand and looks at the party and says, our good friend Sir Marius has invited us to a ball.
Yes, just our good friend. Nothing
Another man has
more.
invited you to a dance. This'll go great, I'm sure.
Listen, I trust Marius. I think this
I
soiree.
turn to-
And she looks at Leon like, is that the right word? Soiree.
Leon, upon what Galen says, speaks before thinking, which she doesn't do very often. But she's kind of like caught up in this letter, and after Galen making like a snarky remark about Marius, she goes, well, I've already been to a ball with Marius, so it's fine. And then she goes,
So
now you all know.
Galen sort of crosses his arms and gives Leon a look like, oh.
Yes.
Gris notices Leon looking a little nervous and sees her like, I imagine she's probably going back to her usual kind of antics. So I know earlier you mentioned that she taps the hilt of her sword.
Yeah.
So Gris is like looking at the sword, looking at Leon, and she's like, Marius? Sword Marius. Metal Marius.
Marius. You know what? We were birds with him for a hot second. I think we'll be okay. And I'm looking at Galen.
Gris is like, wait a second. You wouldn't have even met Marius if I didn't say we should save the birds.
This is true. And yes.
Gris
About
takes
the ball.
great pride in this, by the way.
And Leon looks at Galen and says, so, when I got back to Ayla's, my mother, very excited. Any excuse to hold a ball. So she had a ball to celebrate me coming home, and I asked Marius to escort me. He gladly did, and it was fun. And he didn't try to kill me.
Wait.
None of our surprises.
What's the occasion of this ball?
Leon smiles. It's Marius's birthday.
Will you be escorting him?
No, I think we're just going.
I look at Gris and I go, I think he's the host. I think he's the one throwing it. I'm pretty sure. I can't be certain, but I think so.
Well, it would be the Steele household. And Leon's like, you know what? We're actually not going to get into nobility. politics right now."
But as soon as she says that, though, I pipe up because I remember it, and I'm like, wait, so, like, all that stuff didn't follow, like, the reason he left and stuff, that didn't, like, wasn't a problem. You made a big thing about it being a big deal among nobles. I was just, like,
What happened with his
a little
wife?
surprised. It all
Ex-wife?
seems business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well,
Valdithas, I need you to know, is hovering nearby, getting all the juicy gossip.
oh, absolutely. Leon's fine with it. She loves Valdithas. Leon kind of goes, well, I wouldn't say it was like sunshine and rainbows. I'm gonna have to brief you all on how nobility works.
Yeah, was it weird when you came back with him and he's been gone for all this time?
Yes. Well, let's just say the two of us were the talk of the town for a very long time, and there was a lot of, Leon, where did Marius come from? How did you run into him? Where did you even go? And there was a lot of me being like, please stop asking me these questions.
So, as you're going on with this, Valdithas sort of leans down to Galen, and he goes, so this Marius man, is he handsome? You know, is he the kind of guy you would want to be the talk of the town with?
Galen sort of like leans up to Valdithas and is like, that's debatable. But Leon seems to like him, so I guess it's okay.
He nods for a second, and then he sort of like walks over to Ari, looks down for a second, seems to like make some queer eye contact for a moment, realizes maybe you're not the best person to ask, and then sort of like awkwardly tiptoes over to Gris and goes, "So is this Marius man handsome?"
I love Valdithas.
Gris like suddenly becomes 10 feet taller, and she's like, "Oh, very." And then she's like, "And seems to be a good fit for Lady Leon LaBelle."
He nods. He's nodding along. He's like, "I'm so sorry, Leon. I interrupted. Go ahead."
Oh, and I was just gonna say, while after Valdithas like scurried away from me and over to Gris, I'm just left confused for a second. Like I got the contact, but I don't know what the question was gonna be, so I'm just like, okay. So I lean over to Galen and I just go, "Anyways, I thought you two made up."
I mean, it's been a while. I don't know. People change.
That's fair.
He could be back to his all haughty-taughty noble self for all we know.
Do you even know if he was ever hoity-toity?
Yeah, I pipe up and I'm just like, "This is Marius you're talking about?"
He was a bird for like years.
He also talked mad shit on his ex-wife.
Listen, sometimes things just don't work out. Like, let the man have a second chance.
As Valdithas says, oh, sorry for interrupting you. Leon is kind of like pointedly ignoring all of the commentary that's happening. She's like, "I'm not engaging in this." And she looks at Valdithas and she says, "I need a present."
Valdithas
A bird!
nods.
We should give him
I
a
don't
bird.
think that would be very appreciated, Gris.
Could you imagine? Leon like snaps and like cut eyes Gris and is
Travis's
like,
chicken, on the other hand,
"Do
maybe
not
a better
give him-
gift.
No, nothing bird related.
It could be symbolic. You guys
Chris?
like symbols?
Please. I am begging you.
Maybe you could get
Nothing
Reese to
bird
carve
Chris is
him
like-
a...
Oh.
Maybe you
Leon-
could get Reese to carve him a little songbird.
We could do that. I could,
No.
I
Yeah.
could write to
Absolutely
him
not.
at once.
Absolutely not.
Ari like opens their satchel and like starts looking through it, and I'm just like, I don't think anything here is gift worthy. I'm sure his whetstone's much nicer than mine anyway.
What about something for Raphael?
Leon looks at Valdithas and says, "Do you have any very rare books that I could buy from you?"
Chris is like a terrible gift.
Valdithas thinks for a second, and he's like, "How much are you willing to pay?"
A lot,
The
probably.
limit doesn't really exist.
He's
you.
that handsome. I see how it is. He thinks for a moment, and he goes, "What sort of interests does he have?"
He loves history, particularly Elven history, if I'm recalling correctly, right?
He just really
Out of
likes
character.
history.
That's what I thought.
He's just a dude, bro. Who's into
He
history.
loves history. He loves reading books about history. He's read a lot. So I'm talking something rare that it's unlikely he's ever read it.
He thinks for a moment, and he goes, "I will be back. Please start counting your coins, because I will also need to bribe anyone who notices this is missing."
Okay.
I'm just stuck thinking to myself. Ari's just like stuck on this whole transaction, thinking to themselves, just like, this is a library. This is you take the book, and then you give it back, and then you get a date, and then if you don't give it back by that date, you probably get a fine. This is a library.
I'm going to just pay the fine in advance for forever.
Ari's like startled, because again, this was just their process, right? Like they were not expecting
Yeah.
it. So they're just like, this is a library. It's just that's what they're going to be stuck on.
And as Valdithas is gone, Leon, remembering that she never addressed the sword conversation with Gris, looks at Gris and says, "Where do you think the sword came from?"
I think it's quite obvious.
Oh no!
Oh,
No.
not again!
Robot Gris!
A Robo Gris!
She'll be right back.
BRB. And
Discord hates me today. I'm so sorry.
she's back. How the
Robo Gris is the new party tank.
hear me.
Suddenly
So
a
what
new
is-
tear in the dimension opens and out steps a robotic Gris. Half an inch taller than normal with glowing red eyes.
She
Covered
grew
in
half
armor.
an inch. You're kidding.
It's the robot, the joints in the robot, obviously.
Okay, none of this is canon. There are no robots. in
No,
this
there's no
universe.
robots. Okay,
Oh.
so what were you saying?
I was gonna say, Gris is gonna be like, well, it's quite obvious. It has to be Marius, right? Who else would spend that much time putting rubies into a hilt for you, Leon?
Leon pulls the sword out and lays it on the table gently and says, "This is the only time I'm going to address this."
Gris is
No,
like,
it won't.
Maybe. And she
No,
goes,
it won't.
maybe. She says, Marius gifted this to me. He made it for me.
Gris is like, and
It's very pretty. Very sharp.
Thank you.
It'll get the job done.
so he gifted it to you.
Yes.
You didn't pay for it.
No, he gave it to me as a gift.
So in what sort of instance was it given? What was
Your robot
happening?
again.
Ah!
2 weeks.
Does
in a
Galen have
row.
anything to say about the
Yeah.
robot?
Yeah. Well,
Or not the robot, about the
No,
sword in
the
the
sword.
meantime?
I mean, it fits you.
I just
Thank
pipe
you.
out. Yeah. Go ahead.
You
No, I
probably
was
still
just
have
gonna
that dagger with the rubies in it, don't you? You've got a matching set now. How cute.
Do I still have the dagger? It's in Daddy's chest, isn't it?
you do not have the dagger. Somebody else has the dagger. It'll come up later.
Leon
That's fine.
goes, I don't have the dagger.
Had.
I'm
I
gonna
misspoke.
fight.
Stabbed
It's
it.
fine. Think of it as an upgrade. But not as nice to be on the other end of it now, is it, Leon?
Of what?
The questioning.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay, so I don't know if you answered my question.
What did
if
you
I
say?
can pounce in. I was gonna say, like, what was the instance surrounding the gift giving? Why did he just give you a gift and you didn't pay for it? Gris has a lot of questions about the situation in which the gift was given and received.
Isn't that how gifts work, Chris?
Yeah, but there's
Yeah,
an occasion. There's an occasion. You don't just say like, "Hey, here's a very expensive gift of a sword inlaid with rubies, made perfectly to match the fact that you have recently decided to become a paladin."
Leon is just like looking
I
down,
guess it works
smiling at
different
the
for
sword while they're
halflings.
bantering like this, just like waiting. Whenever y'all are done.
Yeah, and Ari just goes, I mean, it like she said, it's how a gift works. I mean, Leon did give us gifts at Maxilla's.
Gris exhales and she's like,
We didn't pay for
Leon.
that. I couldn't have paid for that.
"Explain your relationship."
Leon
Valdithas is
says,
standing here and he's like,
with
wait,
Marius.
I would like the full story here. She got you gifts?
Oh yeah, Valdithas, you should get a gift from Leon.
What did she get you, Gris?
Gris is like, wait, what did you get, Gris?
it's the silver and gold rope on you.
Oh, yes.
Or silver and gold
Yes.
thread on your staff.
Gris pulls her staff
silver
out,
ribbon, rather.
and she kind of like shoves it in Valdithas's face, and she's like, "This beautiful decoration for my staff." She's like, "It's soft and silky and prettier than any twine I've ever seen."
He looks at it for a moment and he's like, this fabric looks familiar.
Leon
Gris-
smiles.
Gris looks at it. It looks at Valdithas, and she's like, "Familiar, Raviel?"
I do believe so. What did she get you, Ariadne?
A bunch of quills and ink and some fancy paper. It smells pretty good. And an ice box to put it in. I don't actually keep the paper in the box. I keep the letters in the box, but then that sometimes means that the paper gets crumpled. But I mean, it's okay. I
Leon
don't think
gasped.
Lily minds.
I feel like perhaps Lily is the one you're getting all the questions about?
Yeah.
Is she nice?
She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's very
She's
nice.
very
I
sweet.
just found out she knows how to use a sword, so that's pretty cool. She runs the wildflower.
She gave us a house. Well,
Did give us a house. Well, we have to clean it up.
yeah.
But
Oh,
I'm
we
glad
don't
we
have
have-
to clean it.
He seems to like have stopped following the conversation around the word wildflower and nods as if he understands what the hell you're going on about. And he's like, interesting. Interesting. I've never found women to be particularly my flavor, but I'm glad you've You've found a nice one. What did she get you, Mr. Silence type?
A pet pig.
Sure, we'll call it that.
That's not what we gave
Ari
you.
comes up and goes, "That wasn't your gift."
Yeah, yes, it was Ari. It was very sweet.
No, it was what?
loves
It was
it.
the joy. It was the joy. She gave it to both you and B.
Ari.
Valdithas
Chris is
seems
like,
to
Ari.
sense some steaming hot tea and leans forward on his hands towards Ariadne and goes, "So what did she get him as a joint gift with this bee?"
Well, it was and Ari starts like blushing or getting flustered. It was something for B, and adjacently for
Chris
Galen.
leans forward like can't
Yes.
stand it. And she's like, lingerie!
It was lingerie.
Galen walks away.
Valdithas nods and he's like, "A thoughtful friend. I'm so sorry, Lady LaBelle. It's just there's not very many interesting
Oh.
conversations happening around here. And I'm
Valdithas,
truly
you
fascinated."
can know my secrets any day.
All right, so go on. Tell us more about this sword and
So,
man.
Leon kind of goes, and she doesn't really know where to start. She's like, when Marius comes to Alis, he calls on me. We go for walks, or we go for a
walks. Yes.
meal. And so he knows about all of the training that I've been doing as a paladin. And just before I headed to the festival, not too long before that, he gifted me this sword. Kind of as a, "You're doing really well." He made it. It's beautiful. And I just thought it was very thoughtful of him.
So he's the one whose ball you're attending.
Yes, it's his birthday. On the full moon.
Well, if you are going to a birthday ball and you do not stop by my husband's shop for clothing,
Mm-hmm.
I can assure you that whatever is going on with the gods will be the least of your worries.
I figured. Leon chuckles and says, "Did you find the book?"
Ah, yes. So Valdithas at this point obviously has returned, and he reaches into his satchel, which is perhaps too small to hold a book of the size that he pulls out.
Mm-hmm.
It is thick and long, and the spine is in Elvish. It reads, "The history of the Great War, as told by the losers." And he looks at it for a moment and he goes, in Elvish, he says to you, "I suppose this man of yours is human, correct?"
Leon answers back in Elvish, he is.
He nods for a moment and he goes, "Perhaps it would be better for both of you then to understand the parts of you that make you different, to see how that can make you strong." And then he switches to common and he goes, "This is very rare. I only know of 4 or 5 copies still in existence. It would be shocking if he had read it already. However, if he has, there will be no refunds."
I understand. I can just add it to the LaBelle library if that's the case.
He nods and he goes, "All right, well, Lady LaBelle, I have to assume a woman of your status has a good deal of money on her person?"
I do.
"Well, that's good, because this will cost you about 600 gold.
I think Leon only has 400 on her. So,
You don't
okay.
want to tell Valdithas that.
Yeah. So Leon's gonna go, "Okay, so I've only got 400 on me. But is there a bank somewhere? Or I could send it back. You know where my mother lives." How would a 400 deposit right now go? And then I send you the additional 200 and however much the clothing costs from Raphael when we arrive in Alis. The day after tomorrow. Or tomorrow.
I will take 400 now. You are to overpay my husband by 200 tomorrow when you stop
Done.
by the bank. And if you do not, I have your mother's address and I will show up on her doorstep and demand my money.
You got it.
Good girl.
Gris in the meantime is just staring into her satchel and her coin purse, looking at 10 pieces of gold, which to her is very exciting,
Yeah.
but no longer has any worth.
Ari's just staring at Leon dumbfounded, and then leans over to Galen and goes, "We're gonna spend the next 2 days with a broke Leon."
I'll write a letter to B.
Is there a bank in Freylin?
There is a bank in Freylin.
Oh, no, I'm not going to be broke. We're going to go to the bank
But
tomorrow. I'm
they
going to
don't
take out
know
another,
that.
like, 500 gold.
Gris,
They don't
You
know
don't know that.
Gris and Caitlin don't know that.
Gris
They're-
pipes up for a
Alrighty.
second, and she's like, "So tonight we have to sleep benches outside?
No, I don't think that's necessary.
Well, you don't have any money. You just gave it all to Valdithas."
Valdithas pauses for a moment and withdraws 3 gold from the sack that Leon handed to him, drops it in her hands, and goes, 203 gold.
You got it.
Gris is like, looks at Valdithas and is like, "No, I wanted to sleep outside."
He
Leon
makes a
kinda
face.
looks at
He's
Gris.
like, why?
Gris literally like looks at him, looks at her bare feet, looks at the wooden staff she carries, and she's just like,
Ma'am, I was raised in the sea of trees, and even I can appreciate a feather mattress.
Thank you.
I
Valdithas.
point at Valdithas and go like, "Yeah, I mean, I've slept on slabs of rock, and Galen sat down on that creepy bed in the forest, but I think we'd all rather have a nice pillow, don't you think?"
Chris is like, "There's just something about the smell of the forest. It just makes me feel like I'm at home."
He nods and he goes, well, that I can understand, and sort of gestures to the leaves overhead.
And Chris just kind of looks up and just kind of smiles.
Leon, still thinking about the money thing, looks at the rest of the party and says, "Do none of you have money for even one night at an inn?"
Well, I guess I do if it only requires 3 gold. I have 10.
Yeah,
But that's like all I have.
Leon
Yeah.
shakes her head and goes, "You know what? It's fine." And she looks at Valdithas and she says, "Closest inn? We didn't actually stay at an inn last time we were here. And should we visit Raphael tomorrow? I assume calling on him at night is not a good option."
Oh, my dear, by this point, do not call on him. He spends his evening, and he laughs for a minute and he goes, drinking dwarven liqueur in our home, reading some of the truly wildest things I have ever seen. He has recently discovered something called a blog, and he likes to
Oh no.
Get
Galen
quite-
says this out loud. Oh no.
he likes to get quite drunk and read it. Occasionally he reads it aloud. Whoever writes it has quite a bit of spunk, and seems to understand my interest in the finer things, like handsome men and bread.
I think we might know
Gris
who
looked
you're
at
talking
Galen.
about.
But did she have does the-
Oh no!
Mm,
We have Robo-Gris again. So
yeah.
Leon on that note kind of says, so the closest inn, and then we'll call on Raphael in the morning. And Leon kind of takes the book and puts it in her bag of holding.
The closest inn to our store and the bank. And he's like, sort of, you can see him like doing like triangulation math in his head, and he goes, you should check out the Silver Moon.
Okay. Leon.
Sounds fancy.
Well,
Looks
whatever
at
you
him.
do, don't mention my name when you get there. Or Raphael's.
You got it.
Why?
Ah!
Galen's ears sort of perk up at this.
In our youth, we were quite exuberant, and we've been removed from our fair share of taverns, some of which we thought was fair, some of which we thought was unfair, some of which we may have returned and gone about making a mess of. And perhaps some of those places we have a little bit of a aggressive
Altercation?
relationship with the owners. Yes.
You can say you fought someone, Valdithas. It's okay.
Oh, no. We didn't fought someone. No, we just perhaps
Valdithas, it's fine.
argued.
We've all made poor choices, Valdithas.
Oh, I feel like I should clarify. There were no hands thrown or caught or whatever.
Galen sort of puts his hand on his hip and he's like, "Okay, Valdithas," like with a smirk.
Valdithas does not seem to enjoy this insinuation and turns to Leon and goes, "The next time I see him, I'd like him to be wearing blue."
I can
Ari
do my very
turns
best to
to
make
you.
that happen.
Yes. Ari turns to Galen, is just like also a little confused. Because even they got that it was just like, yeah, cool. It was just not actually that serious. Just being like, your experiences are not universal.
I'm just teasing him, Ari.
And I am just saying, you would look nice in blue.
Thank you, Valdithas.
Leon looks to Valdithas and says, "Thank you for everything."
My pleasure, my dear. I am here to help those who seek knowledge, but... And he takes your hand in his and looks to the rest of the party and leans forward and whispers in your ear once again in Elvish. I would remind you that I told you your fate is yours alone to seek, and I will not feed you the answers for its outcome.
I'm just writing that down. Leon says, I know. In Elvis, she said Elvish, not Elvis. She says,
Hey mama, I know. A hunk of knowledge. Go ahead, sorry.
Don't kill me. She says, I know Valdithas, but I appreciate everything that you're doing. Regardless. And for keeping the letter. And for the book.
He nods and says, of course. However... And he, makes a face. If the man I am risking my career for is not handsome...
He's very handsome.
I will be profoundly disappointed, Leon.
Leon says, Valdithas, do you think I would even consider buying a gift for someone if he wasn't at least handsome?
Valdithas makes a face and he goes, Lady LaBelle, that feels a little bit like a trap. Either I accuse you of vanity, or I accuse you of having poor taste. And then he sort of pats your hand and looks back to the rest of your party.
I pipe up sort of in both Leon and Valdithas' defense and go, well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, even I think he's handsome. Objectively, yeah, it's not my, what flavor did you call it? But, yeah.
Chris nods and smiles at Ariadne yeah, that's a good point.
Leon looks to the party and says, we should go to the Silver Moon. We should get a good night's rest, and then we're gonna go see Raphael tomorrow. And she's overjoyed. She loves Raphael.
And Chris is and then do we get to meet your mom?
Leon pales and she's like, yes, okay. So we're gonna go to Raphael's tomorrow, and then on the way to Alis, I'm going to give you a crash course in how to handle nobility.
Chris is like,
easy.
I've been
No.
reading about nobility.
Galen, you need to take the most notes.
Galen sort of just waves his hand. He's like, "I'll be fine."
Chris is
Yeah,
like, wave your hands like this, Galen.
Nope, that's not necessary either. How about we just don't make any assumptions, and then I will just do a little bit of educating. The education is mostly going to be just don't be
Can you
Galen.
teach me how to use a bunch of forks?
I could teach you how to do that.
I hear there's a lot.
Just
It's
save
a
your
handful of forks and spoons. Yes.
I just save your breath. I really don't intend to abide by those anyway. They're very arbitrary.
Forks?
I feel like we're saying this as we're walking out of the library.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, you all recollect your things as you have this conversation and say your goodbyes to Valdithas as you leave the library, engrossed in conversation as to what noble behavior looks like. Valdithas watches you leave with the same expression he always has, as if he knows more than he is willing to let on. Leone tucks the envelope and the letter back into her bag carefully, and the party departs the library in the direction of the inn named by Valdithas, albeit all but Leone moving somewhat reluctantly. We will see you next week for a shopping montage and perhaps an introduction to Leone's family. Thank you so much for those of you who tuned in. Be sure to check out our Spotify and our YouTube as well as our TikTok for more content. Be sure to join our Discord for schedules and announcements and super fun in-between episodes conversations. We'd also love to hear your opinions on this episode and any other episode, your wildest theories, etc. over on Twitter. Be sure to tag us at the Tabletop Tavern. I believe
the
there's an
hashtag.
underscore. And you can also
Yeah.
use the hashtag the Tabletop Tavern. And we love to see your theories. We love to see what you're thinking of.
It literally brings us so much joy.
I love it. So,
Yeah.
be sure to check it out, and we will see you soon. We love you all very much. Thank you for being here.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.